Let me just ask you, you talk about the judicial system, and I'm glad you bring a very, very sharp focus there. In my first press conference with the Bolivian press last June, I had known of so many other cases that were just like Jacob's but non-American, and said that look at Jacob as a means to an end of getting the judicial system up to world-class standards, international standards of fundamental human rights, due to process rights. And as you said, Lared, the idea that this nefarious organization, this network, continues to not only hurt Jacob, but it hurts Bolivian people. And one of the points I made to the Bolivian press was that we stand in solidarity with the press in Bolivia, just as we do with Jacob. And so join us in trying to push for reform, and I think your point was very well taken on that one as well. No one should be behind bars ever, anywhere, who is innocent. We're not having hearings about Americans who are committing crimes. We're having hearings and promoting innocent Americans, or anyone else for that matter, who are being prosecuted unjustly. So I think your point on that one as well. Just one question, and any comment to that you might want to make. We've tried to get the United Nations to do more, other organizations. We know that Dennis Rassicot is there. I've met with him. Ms. Nydia Velasquez and I have met with him. But we know that the UN itself is under pressure and runs a risk and has a certain fear that its own personnel might be retaliated against. But it seems to me that in New York, the Human Rights Council ought to be taking up Jacob's case, and the U.S. should be promoting that as well. Because when other levers don't work, international organizations certainly provide a potential remedy. So if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, well, I think that there are several institutions and government organizations who may be able to contribute their good offices and the influence there. Bolivia is a very poor country, as we know, and it does demand an enormous amount of economic support in various sectors. So I think that there is that. At the same time, I came to this hearing today a little bit ambivalent, simply because there is such a perspective shift culturally that when they are challenged, especially by either citizens or government officials in the United States, there is an inclination towards, let's say, self-destructive, to this level of self-destructive defiance. In the kind of populism that is typical of the region, leaderships often have to appeal on the basis of that defiance towards the United States. And I think that, again, that in looking forward on these kinds of negotiations in future, this is really a time, as we become increasingly global, I think it makes a lot of sense for us to adjust our view related to our own human rights abuses in this country, and also within the kind of any kind of a sort of the black and white hold-ons that maintain small groups dictating the policy at large that affects the perception of the United States worldwide. There are compromises to be made. There are, I brought up the Cuban Five. Clearly, there are some within the Cuban Five who are seemingly guilty of higher offenses than others. But these are the kinds of diplomatic things that we really need to start working towards a fresh start with, so that we don't have a defiant leadership in these countries the next time something happens, and that would, I think, further empower the State Department to take a more active role. At this point, I think it is fair to say that despite criticism the State Department has had, even the case of Mr. Ostreicher, my experience there is that they've been very diligent and yet very cautious, and rightly so, because their public position taken against this government is that which quickly can inflame the situation rather than diffuse it.
Ms. Bess, thank you.